when we look at the secondary, obviously when the pass defense struggles statistically and people can see, oh, this is one of the lower ranked pass defenses in the country, they point right to the secondary. Obviously, the pass rush and the secondary play go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Got to have the pass rush that was void for most of the season, as you outlined. Yeah, Christian Gonzalez, yes, remarkable incoming transfer from Colorado. So he moves on. And anybody who loves college football, if you love just watching football, even if you don't root for the Ducks, if you can't appreciate Bennett Williams and the type player that he was, I just thought he was an exceptional player in so
I
many
assure
different
you there are a
ways.
lot of Oregon fans that don't. So here's the thing with Bennett Williams, and they have his
Yes.
brother. They have his brother Evan in there. So he transferred in from Fresno State. Evan did this year. He'll be a 1 year, probably plug and play starter. That's kind of I think he was preseason all conference second team for a guy who hasn't taken a snap of football playing as a member of the Pac-12. So I think that's telling as to where the expectations are for Pac-12 coaches who saw him at Fresno State and know that guy's a baller. Bennett Williams takes a lot of flack in Oregon circles. There is validity to it, and there is less validity to it. Because Bennett Williams a year ago, if you had him playing basically as exclusively as a box safety and never made him play in space or over the top, he was really, really good. He was an excellent, and the PFF grades reflect this, he was an excellent run stuffer. He's probably Oregon's most sure tackler a year ago. He could blitz a little bit as a defensive back. He could cover well enough, kind of around the line of scrimmage, but he made really good tackles and plays in space. However, he lacked the high-end speed to keep up with some of the great wide receivers that Oregon faced a year ago, and he got burned in that regularly in a big, big way. Most notably, twice in the Washington game, his inability to have that elite closing speed was responsible for 2 touchdowns that were both over 50 yards. So that has got Oregon fans, I think, misrepresenting in some way what he was over the course of his career, which was a playmaker and a really good player inside the box. But the thing that I would look at, and I understand people's frustrations with him and such, because those moments were not good. He gave up a long touchdown as well in the Holiday Bowl against North Carolina. Same thing. He just got beat by a receiver who was faster than him. But the question that I would ask is, why was he consistently put in those situations? And the answer has to be he was the best available for the Ducks, and that they have made upgrades in that sense from a speed standpoint. Dan Lanning talked about that at one point during the offseason when asked about, priorities for this year. It was upgrading speed, and you're seeing a lot more speed come into this team. Guys like Roderick Pleasant in the 2023 class, who is probably the fastest Duck currently on the roster. Devin Jackson, who I mentioned, speed guy. Tysheem Johnson got speed. Evan Williams, free safety. I believe he is faster than his brother. Don't quote me on that, though, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So I hope that that's what we see from the Ducks this year, is an ability to prevent those long touchdowns, because they gave them up against Washington a couple times, and they gave them up against North Carolina. They gave one up against Colorado. Like, they gave up too many long touchdowns through the air, and I think that was because of a lack of speed. And I think that that's something that the staff has worked diligently to address this offseason, because it does the frequency with which Williams got beat over the top compared to other people was higher than what I think we saw from the Ducks. And so that leads me to believe they didn't feel they had a better option, or they would not have, because I do think Dan Lanning is a good coach and thinks about this stuff, because that's what he does as a coach. I don't think he would have kept putting Bennett Williams in that situation unless he felt he had a better option. So hopefully Oregon just has better options in the speed department this year to match up with some of the great receivers they'll face in the Pac-12.
Yeah, my comments to lead into that conversation on Bennett Williams basically comes from expectations and reputation, and then me saying, as I do, trying to track everybody across the country, okay, this guy's got a name. Now I'm going to watch him and keep an eye on him for the 4 or 5 or 6 games that I watch for a particular team like in Oregon. And he was laying the wood on people and making plays
Yep.
And that's the guy that I saw.
Yeah. No, he's a hard hitter in the box, and he's an excellent tackle. I mean, probably Oregon's most sure tackler over the last couple of years. Like anytime he would need to make a tackle in space, felt like he made it just about every time. And whether that was, a tight end in the flat, running back on a screen pass, running back in space, whatever it was, he was able to make that play. He's just not a guy who you want the defense to test stretching the field. Defenses did, to their credit, and Oregon got burned for it, and hopefully we don't see that this year from the Ducks.
Spencer McLaughlin is breaking down the Ducks for us here. 2023 is right upon us. Camden Lewis, dependable, 14 of 16. I don't know if he can hit the long one or trying to think
Not the
of any
super long. His range is kind of about 45.
Okay.
But anything inside of that, I feel pretty good. But just a real quick thing on him, Mark. So he arrived to Oregon as a 5-star kicker in 2019. And to be completely honest here, he was terrible. I mean, he missed extra points. He missed in the Auburn game, I think it was a 20-yard field goal, 18-yard. I mean, Oregon was basically on the goal line, snapping the ball, and he missed the field goal. Like, he was awful. He then loses his kicking job to, I think Cattleman was the kid's name in 2020. And Cattleman looked like he was going to be off to the NFL. And Camden Lewis, in this college football world of the transfer portal, did not do what so many kids would have done and left to go find a job. Instead, he stayed with the Ducks. He gutted it out. He stayed there amidst a coaching change, by the way, and he earned his job back to where he's a preseason all-conference kicker, I think second team, and he was second team all-conference a year ago, and deservedly so, because he has become reliable. But his growth over the course of his career, I never miss an opportunity when it presents itself to bring this up, because it is such a great and undersold college football story for the Ducks that he was. I mean, I literally had no faith in him in 2019. None. Go watch the 2019 Pac-12 championship game. He made kicks in that game. It was ugly, man. He was knuckleballing them, sidewinding. It looked terrible. And now a year ago, anytime he lines up for a field goal, I feel like there's a good chance he's going to make it. And that is for him to lose his job, stick it out, win it back, and earn the respect of Duck fans and the conference and media members and coaches is a great, great story of perseverance.
Love it. Well told as well. Overall, special teams can change from year to year. Sometimes those punt and kickoff returners aren't determined until late in camp. Just overall, your thoughts about special teams and how that typically, well, with the new coaching staff, there's not a special teams culture there that we know of. It's only a year old, but just your thoughts about how that may look this year.
It's got to be better. It has to be better. I trust Camden Lewis. I think Adam Berry, who came over from Washington State last year, is a guy, Andrew Boyle. Andrew Boyle is a good kickoff specialist. His touchback rate was really good last year. But those are the only areas the Ducks were, passable or above expectations a year ago in the special teams department. And I think that hurt the defense because our kickoff coverage was terrible. Our punt coverage was terrible. Our punt returns and kick returns were really not as good as they should have been. And they are looking for new guys in the return game this year. And they cycled through a lot of them last year trying to find, I haven't seen a better returner at Oregon since probably Charles Nelson and DeAnthony Thomas before that. Those two guys, you knew that they were your return guys. Oregon doesn't have that. They haven't had it the last couple of years. I thought it would be Seven McGee. He was back there, and it just never really clicked for him. And then he ended up transferring in the middle of the season because he wasn't playing a whole heck of a lot. So that, I think, caused a little bit of a wrinkle in the return game and such. But the punt cover, the actual punts, they bring in Luke Dunn from Australia, and he needs to just completely revitalize the punting game because you can't have a great defense that is having to start at the opponent's 35, 40-yard line routinely. Like, you have to give them some advantages, and Oregon's punt team just didn't do that a year ago. And then there was the disaster in the Oregon State game, and like the Oregon State game is a great example of it. For as bad as the defense was, and inexplicably bad, the special teams was arguably worse because the special teams gave the defense that allowed all those touchdowns without Oregon State completing a pass. The special teams gave them the ball at the 1 yard line, first and goal, because Adam Berry dropped the ball on the 1 yard line. And then the kickoff return, or the kickoff coverage team rather, not only allowed a return past midfield, but then added a face mask to boot. And so then Oregon State is 1st and 10 at Oregon's 30-yard line. And the defense is just not going to be given a chance. Like, you're just asking so much of them. They should have been able to come up with at least one stop to hold them to a field goal. But still, they were put behind the 8 ball there. So I say all this to point out that the special teams, aside from the touchback percentage, which I think is, really, really good, and the field goal make percentage and the extra points, that was all good last year. Everything else for special teams was a mess, and it hurt Oregon several times, and I think more than people realize. They called the third side of the ball, and you can't ignore it, and Oregon's got to be better on that front. And I have high hopes that Luke Dunn can improve the punting game because, it also just – I feel like it's almost deflating for a defense. When you know you're going to come on the field, and then you watch a return guy bring it out beyond midfield, and you're like, we're starting on our own half of the field? Like, that's not the same energy. You know what fires up a defense, though? When the punter knocks it out at the 5 yard line.
Yeah.
And now the defense is licking their chops because, hey, the end zone is right there. I can smell it when I get onto the field. That gives them a different edge, and that was just completely missing a season ago.
Good stuff from Spencer. Appreciate you, Spencer, stopping by.
Anytime.
Always to break down some Oregon football. You're always welcome, and we want everyone to head on over to Locked On Ducks and Locked On Pac-12. There's a Pac-12 season, folks, and it's going to be a special one for historical reasons, but it's also going to be a good one. Before all this mess ensued, we're coming off a really strong season. It's going to be great football with the best quarterback play in all of college football.
Absolutely. And
I
I don't know that there's a close second with regards to the quarterback play.
I don't believe so.
Like, who is second?
Going into last season, I thought that the ACC had the best quarterback play, and the
Pac-12 going into this season,
right, a lot changes in one season.
Like when you go Caleb, you have Drake May over in the ACC at North Carolina, but then, Cade Klubnik could be pretty good at Clemson. Okay,
Jordan Travis
at Florida State. So the ACC might. Yes, because the SEC is just a bunch of newcomers, and then Jaden Daniels at LSU.
KJ
right?
Jefferson's a really good quarterback.
Solid, yeah. I don't think he'd be top 4 in the pack though. I would put the top 4. Maybe I'm biased because I cover the conference, of course, but I'd put the top 4 in the pack up against. Anybody in the country.
Absolutely. That's why I made the statement it's the best quarterback league in the country.
But I don't even know if you can find like 2 quarterbacks that could crack the top 4 in the pack. Travis maybe, but I think Cam Rising is more proven than Jordan Travis.
Well, sure, he's more proven, but if you're going to have me select who I want to play the season for me, I'm taking Jordan Travis over Cam Rising.
Oh, I'd take Cam Rising. I would take Cam. I think Travis is good, but I would take Cam. I would take the top 4 in the pack over Jordan Travis. I would take Drake May over anyone except Caleb Williams, though. But that's about it. But
I'm not quite as high on Drake May as everybody else is, just because I know he's got tremendous talent and scored a zillion touchdowns against really bad defenses, but the ending to his season was not great. You saw him against the Ducks. I'm not talking about the Holiday Bowl, but the last few games of his season were not pretty at all. So
a sneaky good game for Oregon's defense, by the way. Did not allow Drake May and that North Carolina offense to score a touchdown in the second half. That is the optimistic note that I will end on for today for Oregon's defense.
All right, Spencer. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mark.